I have a confession to make. I am a huge fan of Sonic the Hedgehog. I actually have an unbridled passion for the series in more ways than one, to the point where if I go long periods of time without talking about it, I'll explode. I have to play Mean Bean Machine daily to keep this drive in check. It's kind of a huge problem. You know, Sonic fans used to get quite the bad rap on the internet, and even now there's, like the occasional outlier that makes everyone look bad. But we've considerably mellowed out over the years. Some of the most talented and passionate people I know are Sonic fans, and I happen to have been one since childhood. I started my Sonic journey when my dad took me to Walmart one day after I passed a test in school and got a good grade or something, and he bought me Sonic Rush for the DS. I was enamored by the fast-paced level design, the incredible music and character personalities I've never encountered in games before. At least not anyone with that kind of speed and attitude, you know what I mean? Soon after, I played Sonic 2 on the Wii Virtual Console, and Sonic 3 and Knuckles later. My Sonic collection grew. I traded some Harry Potter GBA game with a friend for his copy of Sonic Advance 2. I had Shadow the Hedgehog and Sonic Heroes on GameCube, and eventually, I bought Sonic and the Black Knight on Wii and Sonic Unleashed on the PS2. I was exposed to so many different types of Sonic during my formative years that I can safely say I have no nostalgic bias for any particular era of Sonic. While nowadays I can safely say that Sonic 3 and Knuckles, Mania, and Adventure 1 are my favorite games, I can still look back on all the fond memories I had as a kid, growing up, and as I tried to soak in as much Sonic as I possibly could. But if you noticed, I did leave out one specific game, the game that kickstarted the franchise into what it is today. I never once played the original game when I was younger, and if I can confess something else, I've never actually beaten it, and I have never had the desire to whatsoever. Once I get to Labyrinth Zone, I tend to get pissed off, and then I'll go back to playing something else that was much more fun. So here's where I confess a third thing that maybe you might have seen coming, but I'm going to say this now so I can get my thoughts out of the way and set the tone for the rest of this review, or rather retrospective, I guess. No one calls them reviews anymore. Anyway, I do not like Sonic 1. I think it's one of the worst games in the series and has aged terribly. And I don't want any of you nostalgia-blind bastards coming at me in the comments with shit like, "But Waylon, you've never even beaten the game. How can you give your opinion on it as a whole? You're being too hard on it." I played enough to know that I didn't enjoy it, and I never will, to the point where I actively try not to play it. I've put this video off for such a long time because just the thought of having to play through that entire game felt like a chore to sit through, and I wasn't wrong, by the way. Here we are, though, with the video that not one person asked for. So now that I've outright said I don't like the game, let's talk about it some more, shall we? Starting off in Green Hill Zone. While it might be an overused and tired gimmick to look at now, back then it was like nothing anybody had ever seen before. The game was released in 1991, and for comparison, Super Mario Bros. 3 on the NES was released just 1 year before it. If any of you remember my review of that game, I said it was one of my favorite games of all time, and my favorite 2D game in the entire series. Let's compare the first levels of both games. Green Hill is a sprawling landscape that almost immediately shows that it isn't as flat as your average platforming level. There's hills to jump over, slopes and loops to speed through, power-up boxes to smash. Within the first 20 seconds, you've killed some badniks, gotten an invincibility power-up, sped through half the level. You might even be done already if you're skilled enough. The delightful piano score rings in your ears as you watch the colorful and detailed sprites pop out at you like the pages of a moving comic book. All of it culminates with you getting shot through a tube at the speed of sound, launching high in the sky, and finishing the act with that instantly classic victory jingle. Now, I want you to look at the first level of Mario 3. It's very flat in its structure, with some pipes to jump over, metal blocks to walk on top of, and the sequence of flying up to the clouds and getting that one up is always good and fun. The entire atmosphere of this level is much more relaxed and mellow, really chill. You're very quickly given a mushroom for safety, and the enemies are almost a non-issue. Grabbing coins is fun, and throwing the Koopa shells to get that one piece switch is a nice time, and after a few seconds, the level ends with a quick jingle and you're off to the next. The levels in Mario 3 are much more bite-sized compared to Sonic 1, none of them even having checkpoints to emphasize their short nature. Sonic is bigger, more involved, and has a lot more going on. This is encapsulated with its level structure. Mario 1 and 2 had a more stage-to-stage system, with Mario 3 having a world map that has many stages in them. Sonic 1 takes that level-to-level gameplay and switches it up just a little bit. Instead of worlds, there's zones. Instead of levels, there's acts. 3 acts per zone, with 6 zones in total, with a boss fight by the end of the 3rd act of each zone. Here lies my first major complaint with the game. 3 acts are just too long, to the point where they got it right with the very next game. 2 acts is the perfect amount of level. You have fun, you don't get sick playing, and you're ready to move on when you feel like you're done. I'm not going to pretend that I'm not spoiled by the later games. But Sonic just feels off in this one, man, down to the way he looks, too, with his dark blue, almost purpley silver coloration, and the red on his shoes not nearly popping out enough. Moving on from that though, while Green Hill itself is really fun, you quickly notice how annoying it is to traverse these levels without another second game addition, the Spin Dash. Sonic's ground speed is almost unbearably slow from a standstill, and good luck trying to get up a hill without the proper amount of momentum and speed, but even then, you realize that you're only really going fast when the game wants you to, and this is because the psychopaths making this game implemented a ground speed cap, a speed limit in a Sonic game. That goes against everything the character stands for, and I, for one, am outraged! Yeah, I know. It's the very first game, they weren't really sure how to make his speed accessible to the player without it being too much, but I don't care! They immediately got it right in the second game, so it's like they just ticked the box that said, oh, maybe we should put that in the game. You can't pretend that it's still the 90s when talking about these games, and as someone without nostalgic bias, I can say that it isn't very good and was a very, very poor decision. Oh, and this is just a personal me thing. This has nothing to do with the review of the game. This is just me ranting. Feel free to skip it. I won't mind. But can we talk about how Sonic's design is pretty fucking stupid? That mono eye especially. I've always hated it as a little kid, and it never once sat right with me. It's the way he looks like that. I have similar issues with, of all things, Diddy Kong. It's so genuinely hard to look at, and I just can't stand it. And I know that Sonic Team felt the exact same way, because the very next character they made doesn't have the stupid mono eye. Tails and Knuckles don't have it, but poor Amy Rose has it because they just reused Sonic's sprite for CD and changed it slightly to be Amy. This is of course the same unfortunate case for Shadow and Silver, as if only hedgehogs have this idiotic design choice. Though Charmy has the mono eye too, Mighty as well, since he's literally just a copy-pasted Sonic. But no other character does! You can just feel the regret with Sonic's team's choices, and I hate it! Sonic Adventure was the perfect opportunity to fix this by giving Sonic normal eyes, since they were redesigning his character anyway. But no! And we've been stuck with this design since 1998! We got another chance with Sonic Boom, but it's like the creative teams are just too scared to touch Sonic's freakish deformity every time they redesign him, which is why they tend to focus on his clothes and get overly detailed like that stupid-ass Sonic Prime concept art, which is the 3rd time they've tried to redesign the character without fixing his eyes. This isn't me like being overly dramatic. This is genuine autistic anger. This is of course when I tell you that movie Sonic's design goes hard as fuck and is the perfect look for the character. Yes, I am outright saying that I like Blue Arms Two-Eyed Sonic because it retains everything else the character already stands for. But just fixing those 2 minor issues with his design. I mean, come on! It's not even that drastic of a change, guys. Don't tell me I'm not right here. Look at Sonic's stupid-ass model from the Frontiers trailer. And then, look at movie Sonic's normal design and tell me that he doesn't look stupid. Anyway, my rant is now over, so let's go back to the Sonic 1 video game discussion. If you decided to skip the last few minutes, all you really missed was hearing my correct opinions about the design of Sonic and Friends, and how Sega should totally hire me so I can fix their mistakes. But let's go back to the video game part of this video game review. Green Hill's boss fight is pathetic and easy, and if you let me skip forward here, so is every other boss in this game. None of them pose any real challenge, and are just a test of the player's patience. Dr. Robotnik isn't a very threatening or imposing villain here. He's just kind of an asshole who imprisons small animal dudes in his robots. The boss of Marble Zone doesn't fare much better, just like the zone itself. Here's a fun fact for you guys, actually. If you look up Pacebreaker on Wikipedia, it'll actually just redirect you to Marble Zone's page. While the lava flow is almost hypnotizing, slow-moving blocks, slow-moving lava, slow-moving spike traps designed to specifically make you wait by only coming down when you get near them and slowly moving back up aren't any fun! Not to mention the abundance of spiky enemies with weird hitboxes. At least the bats are cute and unimposing, but if you didn't mind the 3-act structure of the zones, you will instantly realize that it sucks here. The music is also much more slow-paced. It really puts you to sleep waiting for all this stuff to happen. Sure, there are occasional secrets to find by going back behind invisible walls, and there is a nice skip through the 3rd act, but this is just a boring slog to play through, and any of my repeat runs through this game always end when I get here. It's like, okay, had fun with my time through Green Hill. Oh, it's time for Marble Zone. I think I gotta go to work or something. If you aren't convinced at all and think I'm just talking out of my ass, think about this. Green Hill Zone, very wide open. There's no set one way to play through it. With each repeat of Marble Zone, though, you're gonna play through it the exact same way every single time. It's linear and it's boring, which are probably the 2 worst things you can say about a level, especially a Sonic level. Mind-dazzling artist and beautiful man Yuji Naka said that when making levels designed around such a fast-paced character, you need to have the occasional slow level so that the player can catch their breath and relax from all the high-speed antics. The problem with that, though, is if you design your levels well enough, you don't have to have slow levels at all. Marble Zone is littered with tight platforming, which was never Sonic's strong point, by the way, and many moments where literally nothing happens other than waiting. Green Hill isn't constant speed in action, you can go straight to the end, but it also entices you with floating platforms that'll take you to higher parts of the level, or secret item boxes. You just glimpse at those as you speed by, and it'll encourage the player to naturally stop and go back to see what that's all about. It creates a natural flow of a level, like going fishing, the fish being the player and the side paths being the bait. Sure, you could just swim right past and forget about it, but just seeing that alternate route for half of a second is more than enough to draw you in and take a bite. Every good Sonic level is designed like this. Angel Island, Emerald Hill, Mushroom Valley, Studiopolis, Emerald Coast, Red Mountain, the list goes on. If anything in your Sonic game takes so long to sit through that it actually triggers Sonic's impatient animation, I think you did something wrong. Coming from someone who grew up with Mario games first, I'm no stranger to slower-paced platforming. But I expect that from something like Mario, Yoshi's Island, fuck, even Gex. Anything is better than waiting around. And it's even worse in a Sonic game. Moving on to Spring Yard Zone and things are looking up. Literally. Hey, fun fact, real fun fact, did you know that this was the very first zone to be worked on and completed? Imagine the world we'd live in if Spring Yard was the first zone and then Green Hill came later. Then I guess we get an oversaturation of Spring Yard in modern media. I suppose the Sonic movies taking place in Spring Yard, Montana just wouldn't flow as well. Spring Yard Zone is the equivalent of a sucker punch, where it lures you in with the promise of fast-paced action and good level design, but very quickly punishes you for thinking you were about to have fun with ball-busting bumpers, erratically evil enemy placement, and more shitty spikes than there are quills on an actual hedgehog. Good luck keeping 50 rings and reaching the end for a chance at the Chaos Emeralds. That is, if the forced movement doesn't just drag you away when you were millimeters from jumping into the giant ring. Spring Yard Zone sucks, because I feel like, with some tweaking, this would actually be one of the better levels. It's usually wide open, there's a big showcase of Sonic's momentum and speed, there's several different pathways offering hidden pickups, but there's just so many things getting in the way. The weird elevator blocks, for one thing, are annoying and destroy the pacing of the level, but they aren't really that big of a deal compared to the numerous spiky hazards. Oops, I guess I should have seen that coming and knew that was there, right? If this was the very first level they ever worked on, then Green Hill must have been the last level they ever worked on, because clearly they grew out of their spike fetish towards the end of development. But hey, speaking of annoying mechanics that aren't fun and make the player want to stop playing and go do something else, let's talk about the special stages.
This stupid ass shit, let me show you guys how to play this real quick.
Never before in my life have I ever said, "Whose idea was this?" so many times. I'll save you all the trouble of some complex rant or deep explanation and keep it short. The special stages aren't fun, and you'd be hard-pressed to find someone that disagrees with me. They aren't a fun challenge. They don't test the player with their knowledge of how Sonic moves. They don't ask you to master level design. They're just a patience test. I'd have more fun watching paint dry. I'd rather tear out my hair and replace it with real hedgehog quills. I'd rather go through years of contortionist school so I could physically roll into a ball and leave. I'd rather play Labyrinth Zone! I don't care if it's been said to death, this sucks and is not fun to play. I can't really emphasize that enough. Everything about this level betrays the mere concept of what Sonic the Hedgehog is. I don't care that it's a water level, that doesn't matter. Take away the water and you still have a linear, claustrophobic, slow, spike-ridden mess of a level! Oh, silly me, I guess I should have seen that coming. That's my fault for expecting to be able to walk there. Oh man, I'm so glad there's 3 acts of this stage. This is so fun! I never really drowned while running around in here because bubbles were plentiful, evenly spaced out, and I have enough game sense to know how far I should push it. But Act 3 really pushed me to my limit. Actually, game over here because of the shitty enemy placement. If I was going to torture myself by playing the original version and not the vastly superior Taxman mobile port, I would have had to restart the entire game. Viewed as a water level, it's fine. There's better water levels later in the series, and this shortcut in Act 1, where you backtrack after hitting a button, really helps speed things up. But it's still an unfun slog to play through. The boss isn't even a boss. It's just a virtual escape sequence where Robotnik just happens to also be there. Nothing even happens if you beat him. It's not like you're chasing him to the actual boss, and it's not like if you beat him here, you get like an advantage for when the real boss starts. No, it's nothing like that. Although, that would be a pretty cool idea. If they ever bring this zone back in a hypothetical Mania 2, I'd love for them to try out that concept. So, yeah, this level sucks and is worthless. But I did happen to notice all the interesting bird lore going on in the sprite work. South Island was clearly inhabited by some kind of bird race of creatures, and Labyrinth Zone seems to prove that. Maybe Longclaw from the Sonic movie was inspired by this. This also makes me question the relevancy of Hidden Palace Zone in Sonic 2, but I'll get to that point, later. After you escape the labyrinth, you get another bait and switch and kick in the groin with Starlight Zone. Pretty music and gorgeous sprites aren't a big enough distraction for you not to notice the terrible level design. Sonic Team figured out that players would be sick of spikes at this point, so instead they added bomb traps, fire-spewing geysers, and bottomless pits! I once again found myself asking, whose idea was this? More and more as I continued playing. Why would they want the player to go fast and then punish them for going fast by placing fans that completely halt your momentum, indestructible little bomb guys that blow up and have an obnoxious hitbox, and again, bottomless pits? This is probably the biggest offender of this zone right here. If I didn't have access to the spin dash, how exactly was I supposed to get up there? The path before me is gone, and I don't have enough momentum or land to boost myself up towards the higher path. This moment here, also ridiculous. On one side, I have a fan that refuses to let me pass, and I can't even jump over it because the ceiling is too low. And on my other side is a spiked enemy that keeps moving forward, closing me in. It's a pincer maneuver that kills me on both sides. How on earth am I supposed to get out of this without taking a hit? Why did they design it this way? Was this put here to purposefully punish the player? Starlight Zone feels like it was supposed to be the big break after Labyrinth Zone. Pretty music, fast platforming, lots of power-ups. What we got instead was a mess of spikes, shit enemy placement, pace-breaking seesaws, bottomless pits, fans that have the strength of a jet engine and a lack of joy. Also, my game crashed when trying to load Act 2, and my progress wasn't saved. So I had to play through the entire game a second time just to get back to this point, and by then, I was thoroughly tired of this game. and a half of nothing down the drain, and it didn't save my progress! I'd been tricked, beaten down, waterboarded, prodded at, burned. I was exhausted. What came next? But hell itself.
Send in everyone.
Which one?
Everyone!
Scrap Brain Zone, I feel, is aptly named, because by the time the player gets to this point, their brains will have been scrapped. The zone is infuriating and really annoying, and also you can't get into special stages for no real reason. So if you didn't get the Chaos Emeralds here, you're shit out of luck. I don't think I ever played a Sonic level where I was so frequently bombarded by bullshit. If you thought I complained about spikes, bad enemy placement, and unfair hazards before, well, you aren't going to hear me do this again, because at this point I was just so tired of playing this stupid game that I was only playing to get footage and see the ending. Like I said at the start of this video, I had never finished this game before, but I still knew about all the horrors of this final stage from the internet. I think if you ever play a game just to finish it, and you aren't having fun by the end, then the game designers did something wrong. I was burned out and tired. I didn't want to play anymore. But I had to see this through the end, otherwise people would bitch and moan and said something like, oh, I didn't really beat it, or whatever. I'm really out of witty commentary to make, I just really hate this level and I don't find it fun. Slow-paced waiting for traps, waiting for enemies to get into position, electrical hazards, conveyor belts, giant crushers with really weird hitboxes, and these rotating platforms that Sonic runs around that I tried to avoid whenever I could, because I feel like their collision was unresponsive, but honestly, maybe that was just me. I game overed 3 separate times when trying to play the zone, and most of them were in Act 3, which is just Act 4 of Labyrinth Zone, with all the same problems cranked up to 11. You know, I actually played Sonic CD before I ever played this game, and in that game, Act 3 is just a short little romp before the boss of the zone, and not a full-length level like it is here. I really wish that were the case here, because, my god, this is somehow worse than it was before! Sure, yeah, whatever. I like the lore implications, that the reason there was no boss in Labyrinth Zone is because Eggman was scoping the place out to see if it was worth building a base for, or whatever bullshit that I'm reading too deep into. But god, I'm so sick of this. Act 4 sucks, and it leads to an even worse boss. A non-challenging, non-threatening, non-issue of a final boss where you slowly, and I do mean slowly, wait for Eggman to show up in a random crusher pod while lightning orbs come down kind of slowly. The only possible hazard here is the fact that you get no rings for seemingly no reason. But once that's done, it's finally over! And Sonic runs back through Green Hill Zone and all is well. But you don't even get any kind of reward whatsoever for getting all 6 Chaos Emeralds. Not even in the mobile port! Sure, you can use Super Sonic in debug mode and get the fun, cool elemental shields from Sonic 3. But at that point, I'm never playing this game again! At least you can use them to bypass all the shit level design, but I still would have liked some kind of tangible prize for putting myself through all that torture. I will stand by my statement that Sonic 1 is not good, nor is it well designed, and just because a game has one really good level does not mean the game holds up 30 years later. But it did well enough to lay the groundwork for 2 much better sequels and 1 equally terrible side game. Of course, this desire to beat Mario shot them in the foot because now Sega desperately tries and fails to come up with levels and games that properly utilize Sonic's main ability of speed. What they don't realize is that they could just release level packs for Sonic Mania forever and everyone would buy them and enjoy it. Yeah, I guess in their desire to make something cooler than Mario, they limited their options when it comes to making games around this character. Here's the thing, and I know that none of you freaks will ever admit this, but Green Hill Zone by itself is better than Super Mario Bros. But Mario is still really fucking good and plays the way he does for a reason. The Super Nintendo version of Mario 3 is still one of my favorite games of all time. It's nearly the perfect 2D Mario. But that doesn't mean that it isn't blown out of the water completely by Sonic 2 or Sonic 3. Sonic is good, damn good in fact, but I guess everyone trips and falls before finally finding their footing.